Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Because He has anointed me to do the work I need to do. Proclaim good news to those near and far. Proclaim good news to those near and far. Jesus loves you no matter who you are. So always remember, He'll give you hope for tomorrow. Never forget, He'll give you joy for your sorrows. Don't you worry.
Good evening. I'm your host, Reverend Dale Roberts, and again, I'm so honored that you tuned in again today to Hope for the Brokenhearted. We're beginning a brand new theme today entitled Heart to Heart, and I have a special guest coming today who's going to share some heartfelt moments with us about some of the things that are going on in our society today. Nephew, I am so honored to have you here today. But for my guests who have not met you before, just tell us a little something about yourself.
Well, my name is Marco Akil. This is my auntie, Auntie Dale. I grew up here, spent a lot of time in my youth being around this lovely woman, very inspired, very strong woman of God, which is something I'm very, very, very happy about, and also inspired me to keep my own path with God. I work with the Berkeley Unified School District. I pretty much work with kids who have special needs with various forms of mental or academic challenges. So that's what I do for a living, and that's pretty much it. That's me.
Well, that seems like a lot to me, and I am so proud of you, Marco.
Thank you.
You have come from a long way, and you've grown into a wonderful young man. Now, Marco, the reason I wanted you here today was that we've been having so many issues and drama, so much drama in our media today about our black men getting killed by the police in so many different ways. And I wanted you here today to just kind of give us your spin on everything, being an African American man, realizing that you can't speak for all African American men, but you can sort of give us a feel for how you feel with having to cut on the television or read a magazine or a newspaper, and there another African American man is shot by the police. So I'm going to just throw out a name to you, and you tell me your thoughts on it, okay?
Sure.
Eric Gardner.
There's a lot of pain for me when I think of Eric Gardner, just simply because it was a situation that just did not have to happen. There was no need for his situation to have such an extreme. I mean, even if he was, from what I understand, the police officers at hand said they were refusing, he was refusing to comply, but in the video it shows him having no form of aggression. He wasn't threatening anybody. He was just saying that, in so many words, I don't want to be demeaned by putting my hands up, being on the floor. The procedure that often people go through with the police, and which, in my opinion, I think would be uncomfortable for anybody, no matter what the situation of their race. But it was just totally unnecessary. It was clearly overreacting. They didn't need to use such excessive force on him. He wasn't struggling with anybody. He wasn't fighting anybody. He wasn't threatening anybody. There was no need for over several cops to apprehend him like he was a fugitive from the law. So my thing is, it's a lot of pain because it makes me think about my own mortality and my fellow brothers, because if that's all it takes for something like that to happen, you wonder every time you see a police officer, they're going to react to me. Is that what's going to happen if they misread me some way, or if I get out the car the wrong way, if I don't respond in the way that they think they should respond, or are they going to overreact and kill me? You can't. It's you look at that situation, and as an African American male, I think I could find very few who could relate. It could easily see yourself happening to you if something that effortless happened to him.
Now, I heard you say that your friends, what is the buzz going around when you speak to your African American male friends about this? What are some of their opinions?
Well, they're nervous and and honestly, and they're probably scared because I mean, every time they see a cop car, one of my other friends, he's a fellow colleague I work with, he said every time he sees a cop car, whether it's in his rear view mirror, passing by, coming by the front, he gets tense because he always has that fear of what if that cop car turns around? What if all of a sudden they follow me and find a reason to pull me over? What if they have a situation of mistaken identity? What if it's it's just it's a lot of elements that are unique to what black men deal with in this country because it's not like, oh, hey, there's so much that there's the law, there's this police officer, or even if I'm pulling over, like, oh, maybe I had a bad tail light or maybe something's wrong with my registration.
Exactly.
It could really this can be like, for most people who have those situations where they think about that, for most black men, those situations, they wonder like, I'm pretty sure what comes to mind is this guy going to try to shoot me or not?
When you think about it, do you feel sometimes that you have to change the core of who you are to feel okay going outside your own door? Like maybe having, instead of putting on a hood or putting on something, like just being casual, like maybe you have to change your attire, change your look because you don't want nobody to perceive you as being an African American man trying to go down the street and do something wrong?
Me myself personally, I never felt that way because I feel that if someone is so prejudiced against an individual for whatever reason, their mind is already made up no matter what you really do. So rather you're wearing a hoodie and you got you're wearing the most popular fashion, gold teeth, even the gold teeth in your mouth, or you're wearing the 3-piece suit. If their mind is made up about you, it's kind of there's nothing you can really do. Now, with some of my friends, as you were mentioning, some of them do try to feel that, maybe there's some less way to be apprehensive. But just like with Eric Garner, again, like we were talking about, he wasn't being apprehensive and it still cost him his life. So it's like, it's hard to ask for safety for a state of mind that guarantees no safety.
And I realized that when I was watching the video of Eric Gardner, he was saying, I can't breathe, right. I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And you would think from just watching the video that they would have realized that when he said, I can't breathe, right, to just stop.
Right.
Process the information.
Right.
But he kept saying, I can't breathe. When you saw that clip, what do you think when he was saying, I can't breathe?
Well, it's hard for me to watch that without having a form of genuine enragement. But the thing is, for me, taking the emotion out of it, is just like they had him. At that point, he was subdued. He was on the ground. He was surrounded. There was nothing he could have did, and all they had to do was just simply and it's part of their job description because they don't know if people have physical or so there's a way that they could have still had him subdued. They could even they couldn't even propped him up something to where they could have helped him, but they just let him. They caused his death and then allowed it to, and then when they had a chance to change it, they didn't. They didn't care. They weren't concerned.
And while I was watching the video, I got some little keywords from the guy who was found filming all of that going on. And they were saying, this is just ridiculous. Yeah. Things like that. Right.
Because there's no reason to treat a human being like that unless without, clearly proven reason to. And the video showed there was no reason to treat him that way. He wasn't doing anything. He literally wasn't doing anything. Police are already apprehensive, maybe in their defense from previous incident, but he had no relation to whatever incident that they were dealing with. That was one of the things I had heard in rumor that was one of their rationales for, because they had some kind of previous incident going on in the area. But he was standing by a bus stop minding his business. And if you don't believe me, like you said, there's a recording. He was standing by the bus stop minding his business. He wasn't doing anything legitimate. He wasn't soliciting anything. He was just minding his business. And that's where I was going back to my friends. That's where the fear and frustration is. What's happening? I could be walking down the street with a bag of groceries, and that's all it takes. So it's hard not to fear anger and fearful, knowing that kind of targeting can be upon anybody like you or looks like you. So it's kind of hard to, it's hard to deal with.
You know, when my children were smaller, I realized that we had crime and everything. And I guess not having a son and just having daughters, I really didn't get the magnitude of all of this until I began to think about my grandson, Elijah, and what he will have to face if we don't sort of come to some common ground where we understand that everyone is a person, that everyone needs to be treated as a human being.
Right.
My son and other people's sons, grandchildren will just become a target.
Right.
And it's really sad. And now when we go back to the Word of God, so how do we process it all? In Corinthians, it gives us the most beautiful definition of what love is. It says, love is very patient and kind, never jealous or envious, never boastful or proud, never haughty or selfish or rude. That love does not demand its own way. And it tells us that the greatest of these is love. And we have to walk in love toward all people. In your private life, when you see all of this going on and you're an African American male, and you can feel what the others are feeling, how do you process taking this to God in prayer? And not holding grudges and not just being so angry.
But when I pray to God to it, I pray first about my frustrations. So the next prayer that I come after my frustrations is clear. If I come to him angry, I'm not going to really ask for what I need. So first what I do when I pray to him, I ask him, can you remove my anger and frustration? Because I am angry. I am frustrated. I do feel hopelessness. I do feel helplessness. I feel like I don't have a chance. I do feel that I'm surrounded by a society that doesn't want me here. You know, so I pray for those things. And then what I ask for after that is a form of, you know, not only that guidance through him, but that he allows us to guide us as a whole. Because it's not just about me. It's not just about making me feel better. It doesn't do any good if I'm okay and then the rest of, you know, my people or my brothers who are going through the same thing are okay. I ask him to help us all, to ask us to come together in unity. I think what I pray to him for is ask that we come together, because the best solution is always ourselves.
Yes, yes.
Even if the society is unjust and even if the society is unfair, the best protection, the best defense, you can look at it throughout the history of the world over. It even talks about in the Bible is when people unified, or God got people to unify and come together under any kind of oppression and struggle. That's what they overcame, by getting the people together. If people are divided or they're shrouded in their fear and they get so focused on the individuality aspect, it's just like, you know, Elijah, I'm just as concerned about him as I'm just as concerned about out when some of the children at my school and a little black boy I ain't never met before who just passed me by the street. And we all need to have that exact same concern about each and every last one of us, because if it affects one, it affects us all. You don't want to be that person who's now it matters because it's happened to you.
Exactly.
Don't wait for it to happen to you. Don't wait for you to lose your nephew, your son, your uncle, your brother, your sister, whatever it is. Don't wait for that traumatic experience to happen for you to wake up. Take just as much earnest as you would care about your grandson, your daughter, your son, your cousin, as that boy that lives across the street, even the one that has problems. Because it all comes together in the end anyway.
It does. It really does. And the thing about it is, we serve a bigger picture God.
Yes.
When he sent his son Jesus to die for us, he sent him up on the Golgotha hill to die.
Yes.
And when he died for us, he died that we would have everlasting life, and that we would be able to live out the abundant life on earth. And we can't live that out just thinking about ourselves. And right now, well, my family is okay. I only have daughters. I don't have any sons. I don't have this. I don't have that. But we have to think like a big picture, God. See down the road to the next generations to come. Where will our great-grandsons be?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we have to be proactive thinkers and not just reactive.
Right. And that's where I pray about having a kind of protection. We don't need to be, like you said, reactive. We need to be preemptive. We need to be prepared.
Yes.
We need to protect and cover ourselves so when stuff like this, they have the proper protection, that people stand and come in groups together. In the civil rights era, a lot of stuff like that, police brutality, stopped because, or was at least met with a fair amount of preemptive resistance, because when when the cops were used to doing their business and abusing and terrorizing the black community, now instead of one person coming up and, you know, the whole community becoming like, hey, what's going on here? What are you doing? They ain't doing nothing. Cops think twice when 5, 10, 15 people come up like, hey, you need to stop.
Exactly. We're watching this. We see this.
No, she is not getting in the car. No, he is not getting in the car. He didn't do anything. You have no probable cause. You need to, and that's another thing that, which is a big thing, and I think that people need to learn how to challenge authority. The police are not this nameless, powerless entity. They're supposed to serve you through the regulations and laws of the government, and you can call them out on the things that they're not doing. If they're not doing proper procedure, if they're not doing you can on the spot hold them accountable for that. But that needs to be in numbers. People need to understand the law. They need to understand what relates to what they do, what can and cannot do, what can be done, what cannot be done, because a lot of times the law gets away with a lot of things just because people simply don't know the law. Police go and do things, illegal searches, harassment to a certain, because people don't know the law. If people started knowing the law a little bit more, at least their basic rights enough to know what the law can and cannot do, a lot of this would stop.
In other words, what you're saying is knowledge is power.
Knowledge in the application of it is power.
It is power.
A lot of people know, but they don't do anything. There's a lot of people who are very aware, but they don't have. And that's why I say, I pray for our people to have the courage together. Because you got to act on it. You can know all you want, but if you're not going to do anything about it, it's just as bad as you never knew it.
And we can do it in a respectful way.
Yeah, you can do it.
We can do it, we don't have to just be so aggressive. We can do it in a way where we gain respect by being knowledgeable of what our rights are.
Right, and even aggression can be okay if it's focused in the right
and non-violent.
Yes, and necessary,
Because Martin Luther went through a whole lot of stuff, but he had a non-violent. Yes,
he did, and see, a lot of people don't even understand what King, his target of seeing non-violence was really showing how violent that the people were, the Jim Crow and the white supremacy at that time, how violent they were, because they would go out their way to be that violent. And that's really a lot of what people don't understand about what he was doing. It wasn't so much that and I think he believed in nonviolence, but I think it was more of an example when I read about his texts and his memoirs and stuff like that it was showing that look how brutal they are with any form of resistance. We're not even doing anything, and it doesn't matter either way. We can resist or not resist. It doesn't matter. So it made it shined light on the true issue that America at that time was pretending wasn't happening, or at least the powers that be in America trying to say it wasn't happening. With nonviolence, with this situation, I do feel that it's somewhat different. Not saying that the response should be violent. You should never be violent for the sake of being violent.
Exactly.
That does nothing for anybody.
What's the point?
You're just adding fuel to the fire, and you're just building up an already issue. But I can understand how some people would feel the need to why that appeals to them, because it's a level. It's like, again, it goes back to feeling hopeless. A lot of people talk about, you'll hear on the news, they'll say like, oh, they should have went to the law and they could do peaceful protesting and stuff like that. And a lot of those people out there, they do this stuff all the time. And they still, go through the same thing. They go through legislation. They go to the state and the county. They go to the Supreme Court judges. They fight these cases. They have evidence and proof and all these other things of police brutality. And justice in the system still turns a blind eye or outright denies them. So though I hate to see that it resorts to violence, at the same time, it's kind of hard not to be surprised given the circumstances, because if it was you or somebody, there's just a certain level of hopelessness. Like, well, what else am I going to do? I'm doing everything right. I'm doing what the law told me to do. I'm doing what people told me to do, but no one's helping me. So it's kind of hard.
Yes, it is.
It's a hard thing to balance.
And that's why we have to balance it with prayer,
Yes.
With prayer and taking it to God, because if we don't, our emotions can get out of hand when we see one bad thing happen right after the other.
Yes.
But we know God is still in control. Now
Yes.
let me give you another name and let me see what emotions come up.
Okay.
Walter Scott, South Carolina, shot in the back.
That was an execution. There was no need. There's just no way that situation should have played out as it did on any level. Again, with even more of an extreme way, that officer had stated, and luckily the young man who caught it on video, that, Scott took his gun, took his taser. Now, mind you, the guy's not realizing he was recorded. He didn't take his taser. He didn't have a gun. He didn't have anything. In fact, he was running for his life. He was literally running for his life. And I think he ran because I think he knew that guy was gunning for him. And again, it goes back to this execution. I mean, he shot that man. He luckily almost emptied his entire clip in his back.
Oh Lord! I noticed when I was observing the video, I was like, "Oh my God!" Of course, I realized that we can't make a thesis out of one video. That's why Hillary Clinton was saying that police should maybe carry a camera on themselves. Well,
Well, see, that's the thing. What's been an issue recently, something I looked up, is that some of these police officers are turning off their cameras when they do these deeds. There's been some reports in some areas where the camera magically goes off after an incident where it's a domestic, or they're saying it's a form of police brutality or the cops are too excessive. So there needs to be something more done because holding them accountable still, again, is not enough. I mean, truth be told, that's what we've been doing already, and look what's happened. Walter Scott, I mean, again, emptied the entire clip into his back, running away. I mean, even the officer's liable to shoot. I mean, he could have capped him in his leg. He could have neutralized him with the taser. There was 1,000 things else that he could have did, but he executed him and then lied on him on the spot. He had no problem tarnishing that guy's name. The only reason I even know that Walter Scott didn't deserve the execution is because somebody just happened to be in the right place in the right time. Well, I should say a place at the wrong time, because the man still died.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And caught it on video. Other than that, we'd have never heard about him.
But isn't that the sovereignty of God?
Yeah.
I mean, God always sees. He's the God who sees.
Yes.
And sometimes He will put people there who we think no one is watching us, no one is seeing what I'm doing, and someone has a camera.
Right.
Looking right at you. You know what I'm saying? And we think we're getting away with something. And remember how when Moses killed the Egyptian, it says that he looked this way and that way, but he didn't look up. Okay?
Yeah, he was looking for an exit.
Because the God who sees knew what he did, and he ran out into the desert. And then God did a wonderful work in his life. But God will always put someone there who sees.
Yes.
Who sees.
Yes. And I'm glad that was there, and that he would get, and because of that he's now receiving, some form of justice. I'm really happy about that, because again, it was just god awful. It was just awful. I mean, and then what made it even worse is that his colleagues tried to back up his story by lying to collaborate with his story, like, oh yeah, he had a gun, da 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 da. And luckily with the video and the aid of their police chief, they were able to look at, like, okay, so you guys are lying, so y'all need to come clean, because this video is telling a whole nother story about what you actually did versus what you're saying on paper. So yeah, it
was so sad to see that man running.
Desperately running.
Oh, yes. He was really trying to get away.
Because he knew that guy was trying to kill him. He must have. I'm inclined to believe, even though we can only speculate. I'm not saying this is fact, but I'm just speculating. Is that he might have tried to take a few shots at him before falling. Maybe that's why he was running. Because maybe he felt what we all fear, is that killing intent that the law has to some of us black men. So, and I mean, and you sense danger. People can sense that. When something feels odd, or you're in a place that you're not supposed to be, your radar goes off. You probably felt it from that guy.
It's really sad. I know your Uncle Ken was telling me the other day that an elderly lady approached him and asked him, why are people trying to kill all of our black men? And that's the echo of so many hearts, because sometimes we just don't understand, even we know God is in control, and that He is watching and He is working all things together for our good.
Yes. But
people wonder, like this elderly lady, they wonder, what's happening to our children and our grandchildren, and what's going on.
Yes.
But more than that, what we pray, we say pray. But it also should be something beyond prayer that we should do, because God wants us to pray. But then he also wants us to ask ourselves, can we be a solution to the problem?
Right. Because, I think, and prayer is essential in every way. You got to pray.
Yes, and you got to trust God. He is powerful.
But with prayer, the Lord also calls us to act.
Yeah, yes.
He never said sit and just wait it out. He said pray and act. And as Christians, we're supposed to be the extension of the kingdom here on earth, carrying out the Lord's deeds in his name's sake. So as well as pray,
we have to be active in the lives of people.
Just like I look back on my life. I'm here and I've made it, and I've overcome the things that I've overcome because people prayed, but they also acted. And that's the thing where, going back to what I was saying, that we need to be more together within our community, and that's really, in my honest opinion, the start of having a true solution. If you can protect your own, you can protect yourself against about anything. If you can get your people together, you can stand against anything. If you can see eye to eye, there's nothing you won't miss. So that's the important thing. You have to act. That's what I say. Be concerned. Be concerned about every last one of you, black boys, black men, and adults, young and old, 5 to 65, everybody in between, and that'll change the dynamic in and of itself.
Marco, we're gonna have to stop, but until next time, God can still heal a broken heart.
Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Because he has anointed me to do the work I need to do. Proclaim good news to those near and far. Proclaim good news to those near and far. Jesus loves you no